started, and thanks so much for everyone who is tuning in. And let me bring my guest in right now. Hey, Ramzi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good. So, folks, make sure you say hi to Ramzi in the comments and put in all your questions, comments, and feedback. Like, do all of you guys know what sales engineering is, or what's your feedback about this space? Any questions you have regarding this space? We're going to be speaking about sales engineering today. And before I hand the floor over to Ramzi and get along with my questions, I'm going to give you a brief introduction. And I already kind of gave an introduction, but Ramzi is a sales engineer who's been in the networking industry for over 10 years, and he loves sales engineering so much that he actually started his own website, a really cool website address, by the way. It's wetheSalesEngineers.com. Am I correct in that, Ramzi?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, perfect. And that's, I guess, a play off of We the North, right? As you
Yep.
mentioned to me before. Perfect. Sounds good. So folks, Ramzi actually runs a podcast on his website as well, and it's 100% focused on sales engineering. And I've checked it out myself. Ramzi, I believe you interview new guests in the sales engineering space. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have 115 episodes published, and
Wow.
most of them are interviews because really nobody wants to hear me talk except for you for some reason. So here I am.
All right. Sounds good, Ramzi. So, I mean, in terms of, I mean, let's get right into it. By the way, and folks, make sure you put it in the comments any questions or any comments you have regarding sales engineering. I was really looking forward to this episode because, as I mentioned to Ramzi as well before when we spoke, I know close to nothing about this space. Like I recruit in IT. This is one of those areas that I don't think I've ever recruited on. And I purposely did not do any research whatsoever on sales engineering before this conversation because I wanted to come in with a completely blank slate. And I'm just going to have you educate myself and the viewers in the space, Ramzi.
So I can be saying something that's completely incorrect, and you will not be able to tell at this point.
Exactly. It's perfect, right?
Okay, no pressure. All right, good.
That's perfect. Exactly. So now Ramzi, kind of to kick it off, just for the viewers who might not be familiar with this space, what exactly is sales engineering? And is it like a broad field? Like, is it a field? Does sales engineering mean something that's really broad, or is it something very specific? Like, can you provide more information about that?
Yeah, sure. Are you familiar with sales in general?
Yes, I am. Yes.
So
yes.
A sales engineer is part of the sales team.
Okay.
We generally work in partnership with salespeople, and our job is to understand the customer's business problems and their technical problems. And then we have to figure out ways to solve those with the portfolio of products, solutions, software, whatever it is that we sell. And finally, we have to convince the customer that our solution is the best solution for them. And that's the hardest part of sales engineering, because anybody can figure out solutions. It's convincing the customer that we have the best solution. That's sales engineering. And as for it being broad, many different sales engineers do different things. Like I talk on my podcast with my co-host Benny. We're both sales engineers. We don't do the same thing at all. He's SaaS. He sells software for compliance. I sell test and measurement equipment for networking companies. We don't do the same thing. And you can have mechanical engineers who are sales engineers. It doesn't even have to be engineers anymore. They changed the title from sales engineers to solution consultant, solution architect, sales consultant, pre-sales. And it could be SaaS, so software. It could be physical equipment. It could be IT gear. It could be wind turbines. It could be engines for planes, whatever it is. As long as it's technical, a sales engineer is usually there.
Okay, gotcha. Now, Ramzi, like, did you make the conscious decision to get into sales engineering? Like, what made you leave? Because I know you. So just to make sure I got this correct, you started out more so on the technical side. Like, you were 100% a technical guy. Is that right?
I was in support, yeah, and then I moved on to network design, and then I moved on to sales engineering. Honestly, I fell into it. I didn't know what sales engineering was. A lot of people fall into it like that. I just, at the time, I felt I was underpaid at my company, so I started looking elsewhere. And the company that I ended up applying to was a vendor of the company I was leaving. Which meant I had customer insight. I already used the product before. I know what the customer wants. So it was, for them, a good a good person to take a risk on, someone who has no sales experience, someone who has no sales engineering experience to take a risk on, because I had insider. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Now, so just overall, Ramzi, like what is? I know you kind of touched on it, but on a day-to-day basis, like what is the purpose of a sales engineer, and why do organizations need like sales engineers? Why not just have like a, why are they called sales engineers instead of like sales representative or salesperson or something like that?
Well, there is a salesperson, and the salesperson salespeople aren't generally technical, because they have a different job. Their job is to go look for deals, like start basically meet as many people as possible so they can find new opportunities and do some brief qualification and then closing the deal. If they're spending time doing the technical aspect of it, although there are some that have that job, that means that's time away from finding new opportunities.
Okay.
Sales engineers are the technical folks who can bridge the gap and are able to talk business and technical with their customers. The salespeople are usually very commercial oriented. So how much does it cost? What's the timeline? When do you want to buy? Here, let me talk to the lawyers and see if we can draft up a contract. Whereas sales engineers are seeing what's the problem? What are you trying to solve? How can we fix that and then come up with a technical solution to a business problem? And that's not something salespeople can do. And generally speaking, every company that has a technical is a bit technical will need sales engineers to be able to relay that information to their customers.
Okay, gotcha. Now, given the fact that you kind of bridge that gap, so as a sales engineer, I'm assuming you work very closely probably with the technical teams, right? Like, are you in any aspect involved in the actual technical aspects of putting together a solution, or is it more like what is it?
I'm very technical. Like, I have to understand the technology, how it works, so that I can offer a solution. My job is not to build a solution. My job is to sell it, and then somebody else who is in post sales, let's call it like after the purchase, can come in and help the customer configure it, help them build it, that sort of thing. Usually my job is done in theory after I've sold the product, but I also have to make sure that the customer is happy afterwards so that they can continue to buy. But sales engineers in general, it's a general misconception that sales engineers are not technical. Sales engineers are usually very technical. But when it comes to, like, if we talk about a software engineer at my company or a software designer at my company, they know one piece of the product very, very well, but they don't know how the overall thing works. Whereas I know how the product in its entirety should function with the customer. So I see the technology the way the customer would use it. Right?
Okay,
so
I mean that's pretty okay. That's pretty interesting. So, and now is that common for sales engineers, Ramzi, or is that something unique about yourself?
No, well, you have to be technical to be a sales engineer. So, and again, there's a scale of, we can't do everything. So some SEs are a little bit more business oriented, and some SEs are more technically oriented. And it's a moving scale. And you're not going to find two SEs that are exactly the same in terms of technical knowledge and business knowledge. One more could be business oriented, which is kind of like what I am, and another person might be more technical oriented. Doesn't mean we don't know how to do the other part.
Okay, gotcha. Now, Ramzi, you mentioned that you got into sales engineering kind of by mistake, and then you wanted to, I guess, you kind of hit a ceiling at your previous place, and you wanted to increase your income. Why else did you get into sales engineering? Like, was there anything that attracted you about the role itself, or like any other reason why?
Well, I enjoyed the fact that I'll be combining business with technology from a job aspect. There, you get to work with humans, and you have to use your human skills, which is not something we do a lot it's not something I did a lot as a sales engineer. I looked at Excel spreadsheets. I did some design. I looked at Visio, right? And then I sent it to the customer and told them, here it is. Whereas as a sales engineer, you kind of have to work with customers and you're working together. And that's something that appealed to me. You're not just sitting behind a computer the entire time. You're going out visiting customers. And there's also the compensation side, which is very important. When I worked as a network design engineer, if I worked overtime, it's still part of my job. The maximum my manager can do is tell me, hey, take a half day off here or there. Like even if I worked on $10 million worth of projects, it's still the same thing. As a sales engineer, you work harder, you sell more, you get paid more, which is obviously, let's say, appealing to someone who wants to make more money.
All right, fair enough. So I mean, so I'm assuming there's some kind of a commission or bonus structure in place for sales engineers.
Yeah, depending on the company. Some companies have a base and then a bonus. Some companies have a base and then commission. And the difference between commission and bonus is that bonus at the end of the year, it's up to the discretion of the company to give it to you or not. Commission is the more you sell, the more you get paid. And it changes. Like it could be an 80-20 split, as in 80% of your salary is base, 20% is commission. So if your salary is $100,000 a year, 80,000 of that is base, 20,000 of that is commission, or it could be 70-30, 75-25. It depends on the company. It changes from company to company. Gotcha.
Okay, sounds good. And folks, for those of you watching, I do see some of you have some questions, so we will get around to questions shortly. Parisa, thanks for your question, and someone else was asking some other. So we'll definitely, Parisa, I believe Parisa, you were asking about the qualifications for sales engineering. So we're gonna get to that shortly. I'm actually gonna be asking Ramzi about that. But any other questions, folks? Feel free to put in the comments. So in terms of a typical day, Ramzi, like what does a typical day look like for a sales engineer? Or is every day kind of different? Is that kind of a nonsensical question? Okay.
Well, it's not nonsensical for sure.
Okay.
That's something a lot of people wonder.
Yeah.
It is. It's very dynamic. Days don't look the same. But here in general, there's a lot of customer meetings. You're meeting customers, shaking hands, or at least right now you're waving through Zoom or WebEx or whatever it is that you use. A lot of following up with customers, following up with product managers, with engineers, teammates, whoever, on different action items that you had. A lot of demo preparation so that you can actually show the product to the customer. Presentation preparations, planning to account planning, which means you're trying to figure out, you have this quota, where you're going to sell all these products to hit your quota, because you are quota based, and you will be your performance will be based on how much you hit your quota or not. So it's very different day to day.
Gotcha.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the typical challenges that you face, or maybe sales engineers in general face on a day-to-day basis, like what are some of those typical challenges? I would assume you mentioned so far it's a lot of dealing with people, so I would assume people-related challenges. But I mean, what are some of those typical things that you face?
So we have, as SEs, we have external challenges and internal challenges. External challenges are you're working with customers. Some customers don't want to give you the information that you need to know so that you can build a solution or offer a solution, right?
Yeah.
There is that vibe that you're in sales. That means you're a bad human.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at me, I'll leave that up to you to judge. But
no, you seem like a good human being.
Cameras can be deceiving, but thanks. So there is that aspect of that. Internally, you're also working with account managers who are usually very different in personality from these sales engineers. And account managers want to do meetings. They want everything now because like I said, sales engineers they have commission, but it's usually a small portion of their salary. Salespeople, it's a bigger portion of their salary. So they want deals as soon as possible because they need to feed their families, or they need to buy Ferrari, depending on the company. So I haven't met a sales guy with a Ferrari yet. I'm hoping, just so I can get it right. So there's that human aspect where I'm thinking I want my credibility. My credibility is important to me. I don't want to say something to the customer that is incorrect. Whereas the sales guy doesn't ever want me to say, no, we cannot do this. Right? Or they're afraid that I would say it. It's not obviously, if you're lying, they don't want you to lie, but initial reaction is like, why did you say no?
Yeah.
So there is that interaction. There's also the problem where customers want a specific feature which we don't have, and they're riding on that feature, and now you need to figure out a way to get product managers to implement that feature. There's a myriad of challenges that you will see. And again, not two sales engineers will run into the same challenges. I've had 3 salespeople so far. 2 of them were great. 1 of them, not so much. Some people have different challenges where they had more bad salespeople than good salespeople, more bad customers than good customers. Lucky for me, my customers seem to want to work with me and enjoy working with me, so it's less challenging from that aspect. Mainly because I used to work there, so it makes my life easier. I already built that relationship.
Right? Okay. So you have an unfair advantage there.
Well, yeah, you should use your unfair.
You should absolutely
find your unfair advantage and use it.
Exactly, absolutely. Okay, awesome. Now, so you mentioned, I mean, some of the challenges seems like, with regards to the account managers, they're always saying yes to everything, or they want you to say yes to everything. But of course, you come from that technical background, so you know what's realistically, can be done or can be done probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's an art to it too. Like if the customer wants something and we can do it in a way that is not very conventional, I don't have to say to the customer, "Oh, we can do it, but it's weird."
Yeah.
I would say something, we can do it. Maybe I stop there, or maybe I say we do it in a different way than most people, right? Like you don't shoot yourself in the foot. So these are things that SEs need to learn as well. In order, that's the challenge of sales engineering. You're talking to humans, but you're still serving. You want to do right by your customers, but you also want to do right by your company.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So there's that balance of you don't want to lie, and you don't want to bend the truth, but also if the customer may not care that we do it in a weird way. So why would I tell them that it's weird? Now they're going to dig into it. Right?
Yeah.
I was on a call the other day, and someone told the customer, "Oh, we've only been doing this for 3 years." The customer didn't ask for that information, but because we said we've been doing it for 3 years only, although we haven't, it's just one portion of it, whatever it is. They started digging into that, and instead of talking about their problem, we started talking about why we've only been doing it for 3 years. That sort of.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So very strategic in what you say and what you don't say.
Okay, understood. And in terms of dealing with these account managers and these situations, let's say there's a situation the account manager says, "Hey Ramzi, why'd you say no?" and blah blah blah, whatever. Like, what's the best way to navigate such situations? Like, how do you still keep the peace with your internal colleagues as well as the customers as well?
Well, I don't know. Same way you keep the peace between any two partnerships. We both have the same goal.
Yeah.
Right. If I lie to the customer, they're gonna find out sooner or later. Right. If they find out after they buy, they're gonna be mad at us and never gonna buy from us again. If they find out during the proof of concept process, we just wasted so much time. So wouldn't you, like, as a salesperson, would you prefer to be working on another opportunity that we can close, or would you want to go down this rabbit hole and lose time and in the end lose the deal? So just when I talk to people, customers or account managers, because I think of account managers as my customers, in my mind, it's what's in it for them, right? I didn't lie because it's in your best interest for me not to lie. And again, most account managers don't want you to lie. They're just surprised that you said no at the time. So when you tell them, like, if we do what they're asking to do, it's gonna do this, it's gonna break or something, whatever it is, they're like, okay, never mind. Sorry, my bad. Right? I didn't know that. So, and I don't know if there's a bad rep for sales reps. In my experience, the sales reps that I've worked with, again, most of them are great people, the same way most engineers are great people. And, there are a few bad apples that give everybody else a bad name. So I wouldn't worry too much about salespeople getting angry because they're humans and they understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. But you mentioned something very interesting, right? And I hear this all the time, like, this whole bad rep for like salespeople or anyone who has this word sales attached to their title, and even in recruitment, right? Recruiters, I mean, LinkedIn is like, hate recruiter central, right? So like, and it's only because most of the recruiters I know, again, really good people, nice people, but it's because of a small handful. Like, why is that perpetuated so much, and why is it even in IT like the same case?
I don't know. There is that rep that, oh, they need to make their sales so that they can make their money. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's all about money, which is true. They need to make their salary the same way you need to make your salary. We both
yeah.
need to feed our families.
Exactly.
But I feel like because there's tension, right? If a salesperson is meeting a customer, it's not because there's going to have to be some transfer of funds, transfer of equipment.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there is that tension, and anything you say could be taken the wrong way. Like what I said, three account managers, one of them was bad. Even the one that was good, that I've worked with and I enjoyed working with, I thought he was a great guy. Some customers didn't enjoy working with him. They said he's too salesy, and I
Huh.
didn't know what that meant, right?
Yeah.
Just because he might have rubbed them the wrong way. He might have asked, like, is there anything else that we can help you? It's like, hey, we already gave you all this business. Why are you asking us if we have anything else? I
Right.
don't know
Right.
what's
Okay.
wrong with that question, but so that's from an SE perspective watching. It's interesting to see how people treat SEs very differently than they treat salespeople, because we have an engineering part in our name. We're technical.
Interesting.
We're the trusted advisor,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're here to help. Whereas the salesperson's here to take my money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's the view. Whereas we're both here to help. It's in both the SE and the salesperson's interest for the customer to be successful. If the customer goes bankrupt tomorrow, we don't have a customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah, exactly.
if you want to think about it from a self-serving way, it's in our best interest for everybody to be successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And the other question I have for you, Ramzi, is now, are most of your customers that you deal with, are they like here in Canada? Do you deal with Americans as well, or is it other parts of the world as well? Or
I personally don't. Some SEs do. My customers are all based in Ottawa.
based in Ottawa?
So,
Okay. Okay.
I'm lucky that way. Other SEs that I have, friends of mine, have to travel a lot, which
Oh, I
they
see.
enjoy. I don't. So it depends on the position that you find. And I see a question from a LinkedIn user: do account managers ever overpromise a solution? Yes. And it's the SE's job to kind of reel them back in and tell them, we can't do it that way. We have to do it that way, right? But sometimes, if there's a big deal on the line and they just need that extra little feature that will help us close the deal, that will make money for the entire company, including the engineers who are complaining about the salesperson overpromising stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have to say, we're going to work on it. I don't like to promise, but at least I'll tell them, like, hey, let me take it back to the product management team and see if we can actually come up with a solution for you. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think it was Abe who asked that question. So hope that helps you, Abe. And again, folks, for the rest of you putting in questions, we're going to get around to those shortly. But now I know you've already spoken about kind of some best practices, Ramzi, but anything else you can add, like in terms of what are some best practices for SEs to make use of, on a day-to-day basis?
The whole concept of sales engineering is best practice. But if there's advice I could give people listening that they can start doing today, is practice asking questions, because that's our job, and then listening to the answers, which is, I find, the hard part. I struggled with that, and I know other SEs struggle with that, where they ask a question, and instead of listening to the answer, we end up thinking of the next question we want to ask. Versus listening and taking in what they're asking, right? And what they're answering in terms of what we just asked. So,
or thinking of something slick to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
That's where I go off. Like,
that's like a sales thing, right? Yeah.
And then I just start waiting, and now it's too late for me to say something slick. I have to bring it back and say that something. That doesn't end up working well.
Okay, got it. So I guess, and I've heard this said before as well, like when you're, I guess, asking questions from a customer, listen to understand versus listen just to respond. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, what's the point of responding if you don't understand?
Exactly.
These are things that these are sayings that they don't really mesh in my head because I don't understand what they mean.
Okay.
If you're asking a question, I hope you really want to know the answer.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question.
Got it. Okay, got it. Now, in terms of viewers interested in exploring this field in sales engineering, Ramzi, like, what are the career requirements? Like, do you have to come from a technical background, or how does someone make that transition? Like if it's someone, let's say it's someone similar to yourself, okay, they're in a technical field, they want to make that transition, or maybe it's someone who's not so much in a technical field but wants to get into sales engineering. Like either category, like what are your suggestions and recommendations on how they can do that?
I've seen both. Most of the people I've seen that become sales engineers come from a technical background. And generally speaking, they have customer experience. It means that they know how they've talked to customers, they worked with customers, they have presentation or demonstration experience, and so that helps. Or they generally say when you look at job descriptions for sales engineers, they want at least 5 to 7 years of sales engineering experience, but there's a shortage of SEs. So sometimes it's hard to actually become an SE if you don't have experience as an SE. It's a chicken and the egg story.
Okay.
So, but you help yourself most if you have customer experience, presentation experience, and demonstration experience. Or if you don't have that and you work for a company, try to work with your vendors. So if someone's selling to your company, try to be the person working with that team, the point of contact for that vendors, so that they can be impressed by your skills of communication and then offer you a job when the time comes. From a technical perspective, it depends on which field you're in. I'm in networking, so I had to have networking experience. They asked during the interview, they asked me questions about routing, about technical stuff. If I'm applying to a SaaS, I have to have SaaS experience from a technical perspective. Some software doesn't really require SaaS experience. Like if you're looking at compliance, you have to have compliance experience. Possibly that would help you better. So whichever field you're in, it's better to have that experience, and then you can move fields if that's something that you want to do.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So Parisa, I hope that helped, your question. And I think Ramzi provided some great information there regarding, what's required to get into the field. So thanks for your question, Parisa. We got another question here, Ramzi. And I believe this is Abe as well. He says, what's the most challenging element in the pre-sales function, and what are customers not satisfied with the most?
Most challenging element in the pre-sales function. I don't know if it's the most challenging, but it seems a lot of sales engineers complain about their account managers. Right? It's like a marriage that you didn't choose. Right? So if you don't learn to communicate better with your salesperson, then you're gonna have some problems. From a challenging perspective, which is positive, is trying to get information from your customer. I find that challenging, but also find it like a game. What question can I ask that will enable them to open up? What do I need to share with them that will show them that I'm trustworthy enough for them to open up to me? So I like that from a challenging perspective. What are customers not satisfied with the most? False information. So if you don't know the product very well and you give them an answer that's not correct, either they know on the spot that you don't know what you're talking about, or they will find out at some point later on that you don't know what you're talking about. And both of them are bad. You lose credibility either way. And a friend of mine, Chris White, he wrote a book called The 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers. He says that the one thing that SEs fear more than anything is losing credibility. So, yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. Sounds good. Abe, thanks for your question. Hope that answered your question, Abe. Now, I guess kind of moving on with, going from, you mentioned the importance of the technical background for the field. Now, what qualities, are there any certain, character or personality traits that you feel a SE needs to have to be successful in the field? Obviously, you got to deal with people a lot, so I would assume you had to be good with people. But what else do you feel, Ramzi, from that standpoint?
You need to, I would say three things that SEs need to be: self-aware, as in you know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, you know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. Coachable. So if someone gives you feedback, even if it's negative, even if your salesperson is yelling at you, you can take whatever. Every complaint has a grain of truth. You can take whatever will help you in the future and leave the rest. Competitive. because it is a competitive sport. You're going against other companies who sell something similar to your product, and you want to win more than they do. So, these, and there's the usual technical and that sort of thing. Nice, but these are the three main qualities of sales engineer, I would say.
Okay, awesome, sounds good. And so hope that answers your question. I believe it was I think that was Abe who asked, or I don't know if it was someone else. But in any case, I hope that answered your question. Thanks for whoever asked that question. And let's see here. So hey, Balaji, I mean, I don't know if you can answer this question, but Ramzi, because he's asking about account manager, but he's asking what are the top 3 best practices for an account manager. That's not you, Ramzi, right? I mean, you don't.
It's not me, but I can answer based on my knowledge.
Sure.
Account managers might answer differently, and I'm going to talk about it from a SE to sales relationship. So
sure.
Not best practices with customers, best practices with engineering and account management and sales engineers. I would say communication before and after the meetings. Never leaving a meeting never entering a meeting without a goal. Never leaving a meeting without next step agreed upon with the customer. So these are 3 best practices that I can think of.
Awesome, amazing. Yeah, so hope that helps, Balaji, and thanks so much for tuning in. By the way, shout out to Balaji. Balaji is the guy who does my graphics for when I do those posts. So shout out to Balaji. Thanks again, Balaji. Hope that helped to answer your question. And now we do have some more questions, but before that, Ramzi, what I wanted to ask from you is, being in this field, can you discuss any trends you see within the field of sales engineering, like in terms of even now, the current market conditions? Like, has this changed anything in the way you do things, or what do you see happening from a trending standpoint?
It's changed a little bit. I'm not visiting customers as much.
Right. Okay.
I'm not visiting customers at all, where I used to visit on a daily basis. But I feel that will change back to what it was if the customers go back to work, which back to an office space. But I believe my customers will. In general, there's a lot of software that's coming out that is not very technical, that does not require a sales engineer. So I feel like there's going to be a lot more sales reps than sales engineers, but sales engineers are still going to be needed for that deeply technical products that it's not just a few clicks and you're done, but they will have to also merge some sales skills at the same time. And the way sales engineering developed was there was no sales engineering. It was an engineer who knew how to talk a little bit in front of customers, who was pulled out of his job and put in front of customers to do demos. So
I see.
They were very technical and who did demos on occasion. And it's been shifting away. And now it's going to continue that shift. And SEs are going to, although they're going to have to keep their technical savviness, yeah, that's a word, technical savviness, they're going to have to add the sales savviness aspect to it, which the great SEs that I see today have that already. The okay SEs are usually very technical, but not very sales savvy. So they don't always know when to ask questions, when not to ask questions. They don't know when to give information, when not to give information. And that's all part of negotiation in the end to actually close the deal.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, understood. Now, before we get into the Q&A part, Ramzi, can you tell the viewers more about your website and your podcast for people who want to subscribe and follow you?
Sure. Yeah. My website is wethesalesengineers.com or wetheses.com, all one word. I have blog posts, although I have stopped doing blogs for a while. I mainly have podcasts and YouTube videos. I'm on YouTube, so if you want to check that out as well. It's mainly meant to help sales engineers with the sales aspect. There's a lot of resources for engineers. There's a lot of resources for sales, but none about the sales aspect for sales engineering specifically. And that's the part I wanted to focus on. So the human skills that engineers should have to get better. And even if you don't want to become a sales engineer, a lot of the human skills that I talk about will help you within your job as well, to be able to communicate with other people, to get the most out of your career, basically. Yeah, I'm not really good at self-plugging, so I'm just going to stop here.
Okay. All right, sounds good. And then yeah, I've noticed on your website as well, you have some other resources as well, right? I guess like some information stuff, or
Yeah.
it looked like an ebook or something.
Well, I have like templates, tools that
Yeah.
SEs would use, notes templates. Like this is how I like to take my notes. So
Yeah.
maybe you guys want to take notes the same way I do, which
Nice.
includes pre-meeting prep and then post-meeting debrief and goals, whether you're achieved your goals and all that. And there's a resource page on there that's all about like books and like tools that SEs use on a daily basis that could be helpful. So yeah, wetheses.com, and check out the tabs. And if you want to see my family, there's a picture up there.
Nice.
On it as well, if you want to meet me virtually, I guess.
Awesome.
That was not weird at all. I just
no,
talked
not
about
at all.
So yeah, if you want to meet my family, just jump on the website and
Yeah,
say hi.
exactly. They're all there. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. You should come out with T-shirts. Like we the sales engineers or something. I think SEs would probably like that, right?
Yeah, I thought about it, but if I do that, I want it to be high quality, where
Yeah.
they can wear it in front of customers.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I have the resources to find such a thing right now.
Okay.
If anybody knows a place where they do high quality T-shirts or polo shirts, let me know.
All right, there you go, folks. Put it in the comments if you know any place, and you can help Ramzi out with that. Also, in terms of the best place for people to connect with you and kind of interact with you further, Ramzi, would that primarily be LinkedIn? I know you sent me your Twitter as well, but where are you most active?
I'm most active on LinkedIn. I forget that I have Twitter every once in a while, so I don't show up there. But Twitter or my email is on the website. You can reach out to me anytime.
Awesome. Sounds good. So I just have a few more questions, Ramzi, before we wrap this up.
Sure.
So let's see here. So I guess Abe just wanted to say thanks for your responding to his question. So great to hear that, Abe. And so Amr asks, so do sales rep have to give demos or the SE?
Some companies, salespeople do the demos. Other companies, SEs do the demos. If you have an SE, it's better that the SE does the demo because that's what they do on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
It's like being a race car driver and you have a mechanic, and then the race car driver wants to be the mechanic at the same time. But you have someone who's an expert try doing that, right? So most companies have SEs to do the demos.
Awesome. I love that analogy. Okay, that's really good. Yeah, so that looks like all the questions. So folks, if nobody has any further questions, we're going to wrap this up. Ramzi, thank you so much for your time and sharing with us all this information about sales engineering. Really appreciate it. And for those folks, those of you watching, make sure you follow Ramzi and feel free to connect with him. He's very active on LinkedIn, and make sure you check out his website where you can follow his podcast as well.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Ramzi, and thanks everyone for tuning in. And everyone have a good week.